Good evening. It is another edition of the news and we are glad to have you back. The Douala City Council has just adopted a budget for the 2021 financial year. The budget that stands at an amount of 56 billion francs CFA was voted by municipal councillors on Monday, December 14 during an ordinary session presided at by the SDO for Vuri Division, Benjamin Butu. A budget which the city mayor Roger Mbassadine and his councillors judged audacious and ambitious, but necessary regarding the numerous needs of the Douala City Council. Amongst projects set as priority to be accomplished with this budget is the fight against urban disorder, insecurity, and the establishment of infrastructure for development in the city of Douala, as well as improved lighting of the city.
We have just voted a new budget for the year 2021. It is an ambitious budget which aims to improve the living standards, the living condition of the population of Douala. It is important to improve the roads, to improve light in the street and so on.
Seeing how challenging the year 2020 has been, the budget is believed to be sufficient to offer better security and life to inhabitants of Douala.
We have now enough means to change the living condition of population, and I'm sure that we will succeed.
The contribution of the entire population in attaining this objective was strongly emphasized by Benjamin Butu, who says is essential.
The recommendation is that they have to work very hard, because if we have to mobilize the resource, I think that we can reach the objective and the population can be in the very good life.
Other issues discussed entail the safety of children in Douala during this festive period, as parents are called upon to be more vigilant and keep their children safe. Commemorated every 15th of December, the International Tea Day is celebrated to explain the importance of tea in everyone's day-to-day life. Tea is a healthy beverage that has the abilities to offer the body with health benefits. Many countries, including Cameroon, has numerous branded varieties of local tea, like the Cameroon Tea Estate, the Ndawara Silver and Yellow Label, and Tole Tea. Given that tea is the second most consumed drink in the world after water, some people take this plant as an integral part of life, which adds rhythm and plays a vital role for health benefits.
So many people complaining. There are people who are high blood patient who does not consume tea. But with this tea, Ndawara Highland tea, if you have any problem, hypertension problem, you can still consume it. Diabetic. If you are diabetic or a diabetic patient, you can still consume it. No, there's no side effect with the tea. Like people with ulcer, they used to usually complain when they take tea. They have this problem, but with our tea, it's very different. So everybody can consume the tea.
An aromatic beverage that has a great demand in the world market, Cameroon tea is not just consumed by Cameroonians.
What makes our tea different and more special from others, not only the only production of tea is our company, let's say Cameroon Tea Estate, and it is produced in Cameroon. So we can say it's homemade, it's not imported. So we know from the production up till the delivery to customers, and notwithstanding, even the Queen of England.
It is important to note that the International Tea Day aims to draw global attention of governments and citizens to the impact of the global tea trade on workers and growers, and has been linked to requests for price support and fair trade. Faced with constant energy cuts and low voltage for over 2 months in the Grand North region of Cameroon, the Lagdo hydroelectric dam is said to be the cause, given it has witnessed a shortage in water supply to electrify the 3 regions and Gaoundéré in particular.
The Lagdo Dam is facing a very serious hydrological crisis because of the fact that you are in lack of water. And because of this situation, the production of Lagdo Dam decreased. Now you are about 15 megawatts per day. This situation gives a very important deficit.
In order to appease the populations confronted with the inconveniences, the government, through Minister Gaston Elundu Esomba of the Ministry of Water and Resources and Energy, decided to transfer more than 20 megawatts from the central power point of Alhala to the northern interconnected network. In Gaoundéré, they are working to install generators that can be dismantled.
That is why the head of state decided to move a part of the power plant from Alhala to Gaoundéré, and this is effective. You have just visited the first engine, and you are sure that in the next few days we'll have the first megawatt in the network.
The Chateau d'Eau municipality is also witnessing the construction of some water points in Wakwa for quality and quantity water supply to the locals. Out of Cameroon, now to Ivory Coast. President Alassane Ouattara has begun his 3rd term as president of the West African country. His win continued to be disputed by the opposition, but in his speech, Ouattara called for help from his opponents to defuse the situation. The solemn ceremony was attended by 13 African leaders as well as former French President Nicolas Sarkozy. Before the sovereign people of Ivory Coast, I solemnly swear on the honor to respect and faithfully defend the Constitution, to embody national unity, to ensure the continuity of the state and defend its territorial integrity, Ouattara said as he took the oath of office. The 78-year-old won a disputed 3rd term at the ballot box on October 31. He had said earlier that he asked Prime Minister Ahmed Bakayoko to resume discussions with the opposition, which continues to contest the legitimacy of the polls. Pre- and post-election violence has killed at least 85 people since August, according to an official toll. Campaigns for presidential and legislative elections in the Central African Republic have officially kicked off ahead of the December 27 polls. Although it has been quiet in the capital Bangui, it is a different story in the provinces. One could witness the scenes of cheers and dancing as large crowds made up of several hundred supporters showed their support for the ruling presidential candidate. Pro-opposition supporters say the incumbent president, Faustin Archange Touadéra, can't run as he was not in the country for 12 months after he submitted his application, which is required by the law. Protests have already broken out over the situation in some provinces. The election will be the second since fighting broke out in 2013 following the coup when the mostly Muslim Seleka Rebel Alliance that overthrew Bozizé fought the mostly Christian and anti-Balaka militia, which the ex-president is accused of creating. Armed groups still control much of the landlocked country despite a peace agreement signed almost 2 years ago, and 1 in 4 people are either internally displaced or living as refugees in neighboring countries. In Mali, the National Union of Workers of Mali, UNTM, the most influential union center in the country, announced last Friday in a statement that it is maintaining its 5-day strike from December 14 to 18, 2020, following failed negotiations that started with the government. The Central Trade Union is demanding for the harmonization of the salary scales of state employees, the granting of bonuses and allowances, and the barbaric issue of the Central Office for the Fight Against Illicit Enrichment. The National Union of Workers of Mali's strike has severely slowed down activities, especially in banks, mines and some public services in Bamako and in the regions. Since then, both parties had not come to a consensus, though meetings continued to be held. The president of the syndicate, Yakuba Katile, has expressed his intention to keep the pressure on till their demands are met. This social front represents an additional difficulty for the authorities at the time when the National Transitional Council, a much contested legislative body, is being set up. After being installed 10 days ago, it is currently completing the process of adopting its internal regulations before starting work. The UNTM, which has no representative at the CNT, wants to ensure that it does not make any calculations related to this context. A Boko Haram Islamist group has claimed responsibility for the weekend bloody attack on a village in neighboring Niger that left 27 dead. Several people were wounded and some reported missing in the assault on Saturday evening on Tumur in the Difa region, said a senior local official on Monday. Between 800 and 1,000 homes, as well as the central market and numerous vehicles, were set on fire by the terrorists. Witnesses and other officials confirmed the attack, which came as before municipal and regional elections went ahead across Niger on Sunday. The group, led by elusive leader Abubakar Shekau, promised Christians more attacks ahead of Christmas. The coronavirus pandemic. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has announced the closure of many of the country's beaches to fight a resurgence of COVID-19 infections in the run-up to Christmas. The president has also announced that the sale of alcohol from retail outlets will only be permitted between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. from Monday to Thursday. The new measure equally stipulates that all beaches will be closed from December 16 until January in the Eastern Cape Province and part of the tourist area known as the Garden Route in the Western Cape. Ramaphosa said there are concerns that new infections are increasing rapidly and may overwhelm some hospitals in affected areas. The rise has been blamed on people's failure to adhere to the various restrictive measures in curbing the spread of COVID-19. As of Monday, South Africa has recorded 7,999 new infections and 170 deaths in the last 24 hours, bringing the cumulative number of confirmed cases since the virus outbreak to 860,964. Thus, the upcoming holiday season poses a great risk as many people travel across provinces for vacations and to visit their families. Over to the United States, President-elect Joe Biden claimed victory in the Electoral College after key battleground states gave him and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris a clear majority of electors, and he rebuked President Donald Trump for failing to acknowledge the will of the American people. In this battle for the soul of America, democracy prevailed, Biden said in a primetime speech from his hometown of Wilmington, Delaware. Monday's vote, a typically formality, assumed outsized significance in light of Trump's extraordinary effort to subvert the process due to what he has falsely alleged was widespread voter fraud in the November 3 election. There are 538 electors in the Electoral College and a majority of 270 is required to win. Biden went over the top earlier in the day when California, the largest U.S. state, cast its 55 electors for the Democratic ticket. The Pacific Island state of Hawaii was the last to cast votes, bringing Biden's total to 306 electoral votes. Trump won 232. All of the election's most closely contested battleground states of Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Arizona, and Georgia cast their vote for Biden. Biden offered thanks to all the election workers and public officials involved in tallying the votes, and he decried Trump and his supporters' attempts to pressure officials into overturning the results. We close today's news in France, where President Emmanuel Macron has announced he plans to call a referendum on changing the constitution in order to include a commitment to fight against climate change and for the protection of the environment. Speaking to members of a citizens' convention on climate, Macron said the referendum proposed would need to be approved by the lower house of parliament and the Senate. He acknowledged that France doesn't do enough to be in line with its climate-related commitments aimed at curbing global warming. France is missing its national target that had been set under the 2015 Paris Agreement, and the country has delayed most of its efforts until after this year. The group is composed of 150 randomly picked members of the public who were tasked by the government with proposing ways in which France could cut its emissions. European Union leaders, including Macron, agreed on Friday to beef up the continent's 2030 target to reduce greenhouse gases from 40% to at least 55% compared with 1990 levels. And that was it for today's edition of the news. It has been a pleasure to have you. Stay on DBS TV and have a great evening.